I often think back to a conversation I had over 10 years ago. I was doing an internship at the hospital, and one of the nurses started talking about Muslims. She said that so many Muslims were living extreme lives. No alcohol, no drugs, no boyfriends or girlfriends, no fun. So many rules and everything is forbidden to them. She said that this was an unhealthy way of living and not sustainable. I never met that nurse again, but still her words followed me for such a long time and made me wonder more than once, what is an extreme life? What makes a life healthy and balanced? And how can we get there? So here's my take on it, and it might not be what you think. If you were raised in the West, chances are you never talk about death, the end of life, or the afterlife. Try it sometime. Strike up the topic during your lunch break at work. What do you guys think will happen to us after we die? I'm sure your colleagues will find it bewildering. But is this complete denial normal? My 4-year-old son started asking me about death almost as soon as he started talking. What happens to a spider when a car runs over it? What happens to me if I fall from that cliff? And is dying painful? His questions highlighted a stark contrast for me. Here in the West, we seem locked in a collective state of denial. We're simply not prepared for death. You cannot imagine how many families I've watched bring their elderly to the hospital just to die there, not because they wanted any treatment, but simply because they were so overwhelmed by the thought of death and everything surrounding it. It feels like death itself has been sanitized, sterilized even, and confined to specific institutional settings, hospitals, hospices, safely packaged away from everyday life. But I feel like this denial doesn't help us, doesn't protect us. It weakens us. Think about it. If we could actually look at death, acknowledge it, then suddenly everything else falls into perspective. It all looks small, fleeting, sometimes even ridiculous. Confronting the end forces a brutal but beautiful clarity on us. What truly matters? Connection, love, presence, worship, justice, kindness, and leaving a legacy of good. Death, when we dare to look at it, becomes the ultimate perspective adjuster. Because when death does rip through our carefully constructed bubble, taking a parent, a partner, a friend, a child, we are shattered, not just by grief, but by shock. We are culturally unequipped. We haven't practiced the language of loss, the acceptance of endings. We haven't built the emotional muscles needed to bear the unbearable weight. Last Ramadan, my husband and I watched the Barzakh and Beyond series by the Yaqeen Institute, and it made me realize how poor my knowledge of the afterlife was, and how often I get trapped in the chase of all the beauty and goods of this world. That's why I'm personally really welcoming uprising trends like minimalism or mindfulness in these times of inner unrest. They are proof of what our hearts really ache for, and you don't need to be religious to remark the relief and calm you get from owning less and detaching yourself, at least in one way, from the hedonism of our times. People have remarked that hoarding goods and numbing themselves with devices and different kinds of substances will not fill the emptiness inside of them. And almost every person that got rich quickly will tell you this. YouTube is full with stories of people that had everything they could ask for in this life, but decided on giving back or secluding themselves, coming back to simpler lifestyles. And still, these concepts and stories are missing something way deeper, because they only bind us to earthly feelings of well-being and calm, but are still lacking eternal purpose. For Palestinians, death is not an abstract concept. It is a daily reality. Children bury parents. Parents mourn infants crushed beneath rubble. Entire lineages vanish overnight. Material possessions, status, careers, all of this becomes meaningless. What endures? Faith, dignity, and bonds of humanity. In Islam, remembering death can be seen as a way of purifying the soul that reveals life's trivialities, anchors priorities in eternity, and unlocks profound inner peace. So that's your reminder to stop treating death like a contagious disease and to meet the inevitable end, not with terror, but with grace. So marvel at the creation with open eyes and an open heart, and you will find signs of death everywhere. The old, the rotten, the lifeless, and in between flowers sprouting, plants breaking through the surface and birds breeding. Death is part of life. Don't neglect it. Look out for it. Make it a reminder, a warning sign in all of your thoughts and acts. And always ask yourself, what will stay? When my husband and I were newly married, we went on a 3-week road trip through Italy. We booked only our flights and rented a small car. From Rome, we drove down south to Tropea, then to Pompeii, the Amalfi Coast, Florence, Venice, Milan, Lago di Braia and Lago Garda, and then back to Rome. So you can imagine all of this in 3 weeks. We lived almost entirely in that car. So we would always make sure to find good parking spots to avoid any scratches, drive slowly over bumps and keep the car overall as clean as possible. Before returning it, we even got a complete car cleaning just to be extra sure that we would get our deposit back. You cannot imagine how relieved we felt when we gave back that car and there was nothing to complain about. And now imagine something. How would people behave in a society where they were aware of the fact that our bodies as well were only rented and not owned, with a gigantic deposit on the line? If everyone's goal was nurturing for performance and functionality, not unattainable beauty. If bodies were moved and cared for, not altered or manipulated. Treating our bodies as a temporary trust transforms how we approach diseases like diabetes and hyperlipidemia. In the rental car analogy, you wouldn't ignore a flashing engine light. You'd fix it immediately to avoid costly repairs. Yet, across the world, preventable metabolic diseases are rising by the day. I'm sure you've heard the prophetic advice that the stomach should be filled 1/3 with food, 1/3 with water, and 1/3 should remain for air. Yet, fast food chains are filled with people feasting as if they've never seen food before, drinking sugary drinks like water, and acting as if they've never heard about the starvation in Gaza or the boycott of McDonald's & Co. But our religion focuses on moderation, mindfulness, and frugality. When we view our bodies as rentals, every wholesome meal, every walk in nature becomes preventive upkeep. Studies prove walking only 30 minutes daily decreases type 2 diabetes risk by 50%, and something that also often gets neglected, mental clarity. Our mind demands proactive care to resist degeneration. Alzheimer's disease is surging across aging populations, and asking AI tools the most trivial questions instead of using our own neural pathways becomes easier and easier. Engaging in demanding mental tasks like playing chess, studying a new language, or memorization builds cognitive reserve that can be seen as a neural buffer, delaying Alzheimer's onset by up to 5 years. So make the mindset shift. Don't only do healthy things, identify yourself as an overall healthy person. And above all, keep the true owner of your body and mind. Have you already found your perfect 20-step morning routine? Or have you read every book about self-improvement and productivity that can be found on the market? Are you following a strict diet and fitness routine? That's all good. I feel you, and I'm not opposed to any of it. But it's very easy to get lost in all of these self-optimization protocols. Following rigid routines every day makes it harder and harder for us to really bond with other people. We want predictability, but other people don't always do and say what we want. There's also a rising mantra of cancel toxic people and only cultivate relationships that serve yourself. And here as well, I have to question, where will this lead us to? Isolation, self-centeredness, broken family bonds, lack of community and belonging. I'm not advocating for enduring abuse in any way, but relationships are hard to maintain. Individualism, the cultural obsession with self-improvement, personal success, and prioritizing one's own desires above all else, creates an unbalanced life. How often a day do you look into a mirror? And more important than the quantity, why? What thoughts and feelings does it cultivate in you? While self-care is necessary, Hyper-focus on the self distorts our priorities and damages our well-being in more than one way. Firstly, superficial goals replace meaning. Individualism reduces life to measurable achievements, career status, wealth, physical appearance, or social media validation. These goals are inherently unstable. When they become our primary focus, we tie our self-worth to external outcomes we can't fully control. Losing a job, financial setbacks, or fading youth then trigger despair. Secondly, isolation breeds misery. Humans are social beings. Individualism ignores this truth, promoting independence to the point of alienation. We curate perfect online personas while hiding struggles. This erodes trust, deepens loneliness, and deprives us of the resilience found in genuine community. There's a big Harvard study that followed over 700 individuals for over 80 years that found quality relationships are the strongest predictor of long-term health and happiness, outranking wealth, fame, or IQ. And thirdly, it ignores our need for purpose. Endlessly chasing personal gratification fails to answer a fundamental human question. What is my life for? Meaning emerges when we contribute to something beyond ourselves: family, community, justice, and faith. Individualism overlooks this, leaving us adrift in midlife, wondering, is this all there is? So, what's the alternative? A community-centered balance. In concrete terms, you could start defining your success relationally. Are you a supportive partner? Are you a present parent? Or an active part in your local mosque or social club? Try to pursue collective good. Is there a project you always wanted to support? Consider volunteering. I know being around a lot of different people can be tricky sometimes, but I am sure most parents can relate. Becoming a mother or father will evolve you and train you with patience like nothing else. So exchange that self-obsession with something bigger, something more meaningful. And with God's help, you will find yourself and true purpose along the way. That's it for today. Stay blessed. Assalamu alaikum.